Buffalo Bills walked into their matchup against the New England Patriots with a chance to expose a very clear defensive vulnerability. But what we saw instead was a game full of missed opportunities, mental errors, and a baffling offensive approach that failed to take advantage of the one mismatch they had. This wasn't just about the turnovers or the penalties, although those were part of the problem. What really cost the Bills in this one was their refusal, or maybe inability, to lean into what was working and abandon what clearly wasn't. Let's break this all down because there's a lot to unpack here. From a passing standpoint, the box score doesn't look terrible at first glance. Josh Allen completed 22 of 31 passes for 253 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He had a solid expected points added per drawback, ranking just outside the top 10 among quarterbacks in the league that week. Dalton Kincaid, once again, was electric. 6 targets, 6 catches, over 100 receiving yards. Through 5 weeks, he's second among tight ends in receiving yards, and every time Allen throws his way, good things happen. The chemistry between those two is clicking beautifully. But here's where things start to unravel. Despite Kincaid's dominance and the Bills' known advantage against New England's linebackers and safeties in coverage, the offensive game plan seemed allergic to exploiting those matchups consistently. This Patriots defense came into the game with excellent cornerbacks on the outside, arguably one of the best duos in the league. Everyone knew it. The Bills knew it. Their own offensive coordinator admitted during the week that facing these perimeter defenders would be their toughest test all year. So why, then, did Buffalo spend so much of this game forcing passes to the outside and lining up in predictable 11 personnel formations that played right into New England's strength? It makes no sense. None. The Patriots' linebackers and safeties have struggled all year in coverage. They don't have the foot speed or instincts to stick with tight ends and running backs, especially in space. And the numbers prove it. When New England lines up in base defense, they rank near the bottom of the league in defending the pass. Opposing quarterbacks have carved them up with short to intermediate throws to the middle of the field, especially when multiple tight ends or running backs are involved. This was the Bills' window. This was the path to winning, and they ignored it. On the rare occasions they did line up in heavy personnel, 12, 13, or 21 groupings, they had clear success. Out of those formations, Allen completed all of his passes, went 6 for 6, and picked up 5 first downs. When the Patriots were in base defense, the Bills chose to run the ball on 12 out of 14 snaps, averaging under 3 yards per carry. On the 2 plays where they actually passed against that base look, 20 yards on one, 23 on the other. It was working, and still, they didn't go back to it. That's coaching malpractice. Buffalo threw the ball primarily out of 11 personnel. 3 receivers, 1 tight end. It's a formation they love, sure, but it's also one that matched them up directly against New England's biggest strength, their corners. Out of 11 personnel, Allen was 15 of 24 for 163 yards and just 1 touchdown. Compare that to the nearly flawless performance out of heavier sets, and the picture becomes painfully clear. This wasn't just a schematic issue. It was a failure to adapt, a stubborn commitment to a game plan that wasn't suited for the opponent. And look, there are always going to be mistakes in a football game. Turnovers happen. Penalties happen. But when you have a mismatch as glaring as the one Buffalo had against New England's slow-footed linebackers, and you choose to ignore in favor of trying to win outside, it becomes very hard to justify. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a total strategic whiff. It's a game of matchups, and the Bills willingly passed up the one they had in their favor. Now, let's talk about the run game, because that's another layer of frustration. The Bills ran the ball 29 times for 118 yards, which doesn't sound terrible, until you realize that over 50 of those yards came from Josh Allen scrambles. The traditional ground game was stagnant. James Cook had very little room to work with, and the Bills didn't do themselves any favors with how they structured their rushing attack. Last week, they found success with Cook running behind under center formations. This week, that disappeared. Only 66% of Cook's carries came with Allen under center, and the difference was obvious. The Patriots made a conscious effort to disrupt Buffalo's preferred run schemes. They forced single blocks, took away double-team opportunities, and stacked the box with layers of defenders. You had the defensive line up front, a second level of linebackers filling straight downhill, and a safety hovering behind to clean up anything that broke through. There was no backside pursuit, just straight line, downhill defense designed to eliminate cutback lanes and spill opportunities. And it worked. Buffalo couldn't generate yards after contact. They couldn't create explosive plays. And once again, they failed to pair their run formations with a credible passing threat. That made them one-dimensional in situations where being multiple would have created real stress on New England's defense. It's hard enough to run the football in the NFL. When you tip your hand and remove the threat of the pass, it becomes nearly impossible. This game was not just lost on the field. It was lost in the film room during the week when the Bills decided to approach the game in a way that directly clashed with the evidence of how to beat this Patriots defense. The numbers were there. The tape was there. The matchups were screaming to be exploited, and the Bills refused to listen. Now, credit where it's due, Josh Allen still made some plays. He bailed the offense out on more than one occasion, kept drives alive with his legs, made some throws that very few quarterbacks can. But there were also a few key moments where his decisions proved costly. A screen on 1st and 10 that had no shot of working. A clean pocket on 3rd down where he bailed early and missed a wide-open Curtis Samuel for what could have been a touchdown. An interception on 2nd and long into double coverage when a smarter play would have been to throw it away and live for 3rd down. These are situational decisions that can change the outcome of a game, especially when the margin for error is already thin due to other mistakes. But here's the thing. Those Allen mistakes, while frustrating, aren't what lost the Bills this game. What lost them the game was the overall offensive identity crisis. They had a clear path to victory, and they chose a different road. They had personnel packages that created success, and they barely used them. They had a matchup advantage in the middle of the field, and they ignored it. This was a textbook case of failing to adapt, failing to attack where your opponent is weak, and instead challenging them in areas where they're strongest. Defensively, the Bills came into this game knowing they had to stop the run and contain the quarterback. In that respect, they actually did a decent job. The Patriots ran the ball 22 times for 71 yards, which is just over 3 yards per carry. That is solid effort by the run defense, especially when you consider that New England couldn't get anything going on the ground in terms of explosive plays. The Bills allowed 0 runs of over 10 yards. They stacked the box aggressively, putting extra defenders near the line of scrimmage on over half of New England's rushing attempts. The front four held their gaps, the edge players set the perimeter, and the defensive tackles reset the line of scrimmage with regularity. Deon Walker, in particular, continues to take strides in his development. His awareness, leverage, and hand placement have improved, and you can see the confidence growing. Greg Rousseau had a strong performance as well, racking up multiple run stops and doing what he does best, being disruptive with his length and technique. The Bills' run defense didn't just survive, it actually thrived. That was supposed to be the big concern going into this matchup, especially against a Patriots team that leans on their run game to set the tone. But Buffalo shut that down early and forced New England to go to the air. And that's where the real problems began. Drake May, a young quarterback still finding his footing in the league, looked way too comfortable in the second half. He completed 14 of 15 passes after halftime and was a perfect 6 for 6 in the fourth quarter. That's not just execution. That's domination. The Bills got pressure on him on over 40% of his drawbacks and even sacked him 4 times, but it didn't matter. When they didn't get home, the secondary simply couldn't hold up. It wasn't just one guy either. It was systemic. In man coverage, Tre'Davious White was a liability. He's no longer the same player who used to lock down receivers and make plays on the ball. Right now, he struggles to stay attached to routes, especially against quick cuts or deep speed. There were moments where he had decent positioning, but the separation came too easily for the Patriots receivers, and White couldn't close the gap. The trust to play tight, aggressive man coverage just isn't there anymore. On short routes, he gave up space out of fear of being beat over the top. That creates easy completions. On one critical third down, he was so far off and so slow to react that a simple 3-yard en route looked like a wide-open throw. Christian Benford had his share of struggles as well. While he wasn't as consistently targeted, the moments where he was involved weren't much better. He gave up separation too often and failed to make any plays on the ball. But the issues extended beyond just the corners. The safety play was especially problematic. Taylor Rapp continues to look lost in coverage. He drifts instead of reacting, constantly late to close windows and seemingly unaware of route development happening around him. There were multiple plays where he was in position to help over the top or drive on an intermediate route, and he just floated, no urgency, no direction, just watching the play develop around him. Cole Bishop, the rookie, has shown flashes and may ultimately become a solid contributor, but even he had moments of hesitation and poor spacing. The deeper issue, though, is how disconnected this secondary looks when they're in zone coverage. There's no cohesion, no synergy. The linebackers and safeties aren't on the same page, and it leads to wide open windows. You can see on the tape, routes that should be passed off cleanly are either abandoned or doubled unnecessarily. That kind of disorganization can't happen at this level. Speaking of linebackers, Terrell Bernard had another game where his weaknesses were exposed. He's undersized, and while he has speed and instincts, he doesn't handle physicality well. He made a couple of splash plays by shooting gaps, but when he was asked to take on blocks or play through contact, he disappeared. In coverage, he struggled just as much. When the Bills dropped into cover 2, Bernard became the pole defender, essentially responsible for the deep middle zone. Twice he was caught too shallow, letting Hunter Henry run right behind him for easy completions. That's basic zone drop responsibility, and he couldn't execute it. You have to sink deeper when there's no threat in front of you. Those lapses can happen. The defense as a whole is playing disjointed football. The front seven can win reps, but the back end doesn't capitalize. When the pass rush doesn't get there, the coverage fails. When the coverage holds, the rush doesn't finish. And in those rare moments when both parts click, it's too late. The damage is already done. It's a lack of harmony, a unit that feels stitched together instead of operating as one. And yet, there were flashes of something more. The Bills used a unique package a few times called odd mirror. 3 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and 6 defensive backs. It's a dime look that allows one defender, usually Shaq Thompson, to act as a spy or mirror the quarterback. On 2 key third downs, this worked perfectly. They forced incompletions and got off the field. Shaq Thompson was excellent in that role. He played with great discipline, stayed in phase with the quarterback, and made the kind of impact plays that get overlooked unless you're paying close attention. Shaq, in fact, was one of the few bright spots on defense. He not only made plays as a spy, but also forced a fumble and was active in both the run and pass game. He looked like the best linebacker on the field, and it's not even close. When he was out there, there was a different energy, a sense that someone actually knew where to be and how to get there. It's tough when your most consistent linebacker is a guy who didn't even start the season as the main piece, but right now, he's playing like he should be in that role full-time. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. In a move that's already sending shockwaves through the NFL rumor mill, sources suggest that quarterback Spencer Rattler has accepted an offer to join the Buffalo Bills, arriving in Buffalo with star-level expectations. While nothing has been officially confirmed, the whispers are impossible to ignore. The Bills may have just landed one of the league's most talked-about young talents, and insiders are buzzing about what this could mean for the franchise's quarterback situation. Rattler, who has long been heralded for his gunslinger mentality and ability to make plays under pressure, seems poised to step into a high-profile role from day one. Those close to the deal hint that the Bills are positioning him as more than just a backup. The impression is that Rattler comes to Buffalo with the promise of a starring opportunity, potentially reshaping the team's offensive dynamics. The timing could not be more intriguing. With Buffalo's roster already brimming with offensive weapons and a loyal fan base hungry for championship contention, Rattler's rumored arrival has sparked immediate speculation about a quarterback battle that could define the season. NFL insiders note that Rattler's journey has been a roller coaster, marked by flashes of brilliance in college and high expectations that sometimes fell out of reach. But landing with a team of Buffalo's caliber could be the perfect storm for him to finally shine on a national stage. Fans have taken to social media to debate the implications, from playbook adjustments to potential chemistry with Buffalo's offensive stars, and the chatter has reached a fever pitch. Even without official confirmation, sportsbooks and analysts are quietly factoring Rattler into Buffalo's quarterback depth chart, adding fuel to the fire. Of course, the intrigue isn't just on the field. Behind the scenes, whispers of contract details and role assurances suggest that the Bills are betting big on Rattler's potential to make an immediate impact. If the rumors hold true, Buffalo could be on the cusp of an unexpected quarterback renaissance, and the league is watching closely. For now, fans are left to imagine what it will look like when Rattler steps onto the field in Bills blue, whether he becomes the long-awaited answer under center or the spark of a new chapter in one of the NFL's most compelling stories. The NFL rumor mill rarely sleeps, and right now, all eyes are on Buffalo. Spencer Rattler may have just accepted his biggest challenge yet, and if the whispers are accurate, Bills fans are in for a season full of intrigue, drama, and high-octane football. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.